Okay, you know the scene. You've seen it 1,000 times. An athlete, moments before the big game, going through that final ritual, the pre-game stretch. It's something we all just accept as part of sports. But what if I told you that whole tradition might not be doing what we think it's doing?
Right? We see it everywhere. But does it actually stop you from pulling a muscle? And even if it does help, for how long? Are we talking hours or minutes? We're going to get into all of it and figure out what's really going on inside our bodies when we stretch.
So, to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to start with the basics. We have to be really clear on what we even mean when we say stretching, because as it turns out, it can mean a couple of very different things. So you've basically got two main types. First up, you have dynamic stretches. Think leg swings, arm circles, controlled movements that take your muscles through their full range. Then you've got static stretches, which is what most of us picture. That's when you hold one position for, say, 30 seconds. That classic hamstring stretch our athlete is doing? Yep, that's a static stretch.
Now, this is where it gets really cool. A lot of us think about stretching a muscle kind of like stretching a rubber band. You pull it, it gets longer. You let go, it snaps back. Simple. But that analogy, it is completely, totally wrong. Your muscles are so much more complex than a piece of rubber.
See, a rubber band is purely elastic. It just resists being stretched and wants to snap back. Your muscle, on the other hand, is viscoelastic. Yeah, it has that elastic, springy quality, but it also has this viscous, almost fluid-like property. And that means the muscle tissue actually changes and adapts when you put it under the stress of a stretch. And this idea, viscoelasticity, this is the absolute key to everything. It's like the muscle is saying, oh, okay, you're holding this for a bit. You're serious. I guess I'll relax. The longer you hold the stretch, the less the muscle fights back. Its internal resistance actually goes down, letting it lengthen in a way a simple rubber band never could.
So how does that actually happen? Well, to really see it in action, we need to zoom in. Way in. We're going from the whole muscle all the way down to the microscopic level.
So when you're holding that hamstring stretch, you're starting big. You're pulling on all the protective tissue and the tendons. Now, inside that tissue, you've got these elastic proteins, collagen and elastin, that let it get longer. But if we zoom in even more, we see the muscle fibers themselves are made of millions and millions of these tiny little units called sarcomeres. These are the engines of your muscle, the smallest parts that contract. And during a stretch, they do the opposite. They relax and slide apart, which lets the whole muscle get longer.
All right, so you've done your stretch. The sarcomeres have relaxed, you feel looser, more flexible, but here is the million-dollar question. How long does that actually last? The answer, well, it's probably not as long as you hope. It all goes back to that viscoelastic property, right? As you hold the stretch, the muscle's resistance just drops. At first, it's really tight, there's a lot of pull, but as you hold it, the muscle starts to give, letting you sink a little deeper. By the end of that 30 seconds, the resistance is way down, and your muscle is temporarily longer.
And what's the immediate payoff for all that? Well, for one, you've got a better range of motion. And, critically, your muscle can still stay strong at these new, longer lengths. It's that combination that probably helps reduce the risk of certain injuries right after you stretch, during the game.
So you feel great, you're ready to go. But what happens if there's a delay? What if you have to sit on the bench for a bit? How long do you actually hold on to that brand new flexibility?
10 minutes, that's it. Get this, if you don't do anything else, the elastic side of your muscle takes over and poof, all that newfound flexibility just vanishes. The muscle just shrinks back to where it was before.
Now, let's be fair. If you jump right into your game, the exercise itself will keep everything warm and long, and you'll maintain that flexibility. But the really important thing to realize is that the effect of that one stretching session isn't permanent. The second you stop and rest, it's gone.
So, that obviously leads to the next big question. If one stretch only lasts for a few minutes, how do people get flexible for real? How do you make those changes actually stick around? Well, the difference between short-term and long-term flexibility is huge. That temporary feeling is just about stretching out the tissue you already have. But real, lasting flexibility, that's your body physically adding new sarcomeres to the ends of your muscles. It is literally building a longer muscle on a structural level. So how do you convince your body to do that, to build those new parts? It really boils down to one word: consistency. The research points to stretching frequently. We're talking at least 10 minutes every single day. And you have to stick with it for about 2 months to see those really big, lasting changes. And of course, you've got to do it safely. Break up your sessions. Don't just hold one single stretch forever.
And here's a twist you might not see coming. Building flexibility isn't just about your muscles. A huge part of the change happens in your brain. When you stretch all the time, your brain actually adapts. Your tolerance for that uncomfortable feeling of a deep stretch goes up. Basically, your pain threshold gets higher, and that allows you to push a little bit further each time, which then signals your body that it's safe to keep building that new range of motion.
Okay, so we know how it works, we know how to do it, but this brings us to our final and maybe most important point. Just because you can get more flexible, does that mean you always should? And the answer? Well, it's not so simple.
Believe it or not, you can actually be too flexible. If your joints are overly flexible, they can become unstable and you can move them into potentially dangerous positions. But even more than that, stretching just isn't the magic fix for every single sport or every type of movement.
Think about a long-distance runner. The actual motion of running uses a pretty small range of motion in your joints. So a lot of the most common running injuries just aren't the kind that more flexibility would help prevent. For a runner, a super intense stretching routine might not be the best use of their time.
And that really gets to the heart of it all. Different bodies, different sports, different goals, they all have different needs. There is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all stretching routine that's perfect for everyone in every situation. It just doesn't exist.
So the most important thing is to stop and ask yourself this question. Instead of just blindly following some generic routine you saw online, really think about it. Think about the movements your sport demands, or just what you do in your daily life. What does your body actually need to feel good and perform its best? Because when it comes to stretching, the only right answer is the one that's right for you.